Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
I am most pleased to welcome you to a two-part series this week and next week on ballet. We've been doing this program for 32 years, and from time to time we do something that we haven't ever done before, or in this case, I think about 20 years ago we did such a program, and it's way overdue. First of all, welcome to the program, a ballerina, Brooke Klinger. We're so happy to have you here. We're so proud to say that she grew up in Coeur d'Alene, and both her parents are on the faculty at North Idaho College, and Brooke is now with the Aspen Santa Fe Ballet Company, and we're so delighted to have you here. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We're even going to be able to show some of your performance to our viewers at a later time in the program. And I'm equally pleased to welcome as a guest to our program C.C. Klein, who is also been a dancer, and she's a wonderful teacher, and her students have gone on to perform all over the world, and we're proud to say that she has now moved some years ago to our state and has had Brooke, for example, as one of her students. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And I'm very pleased to have regular panelist Janelle Burke, who's an attorney in the state of Idaho, and next to her is a visiting panel member and a great performer in her own right on our Chautauqua performance, Mona Klinger, who is in the Department of Speech. And with that, we shall invite Janelle to commence today's questioning.
Well, this is going to be such fun for our listeners to find out something about ballet. And we want to start with you, Cece, and ask you, what is your background? And you're now a teacher, but tell us something about your background that led you to the teaching.
Well, it's a long story, but I was 4 years old when a great aunt of mine took me to see the unfinished dance. And being short, I had to climb over the seat to see. And I was just completely mesmerized by the little girl that pulled out a pair of ballet shoes from under the bed. Once I saw the ribbons, I was hooked. She laced them on her ankles. She stood in this awkward position and rose on point. I knew that day that I would be doing that forever, and I think I have.
And so you still do that today? You still dance?
Well, I don't go on point anymore. I'm too far in age, but I train the dancers to work on point.
And now you're a teacher. And how many students do you have at a time in your classes?
I like to work with small groups because I can give them individual attention. I think it's better to work with a small class than a large class because this way you can give them what they need. They all have different weaknesses and strengths, and so you have to develop all that. And you have to think about what each individual student needs.
And Brooke, tell us a little bit about how you started. Now we've heard how your teacher started and became interested. What happened with you?
Actually, well, several years ago, was reviewing some home videos, and in every scene I was dancing about in costumes and boas and tiaras, and it struck me then that was before I'd taken many dance classes. So I think I've always been dancing, training. Probably about 2 years old, started with creative dance movement and hula in Honolulu, Hawaii. And from there, just my parents were very supportive enough to keep me in lessons throughout my life. And I just fell in love with it.
And so you went on from high school, and now you're actually dancing professionally.
Yes, I've been dancing professionally for 7 years now.
I would add, Janelle, a little later in the program, we'll have some photographs on this program of her wonderful performance from childhood until now. With that, Mona Klinger, your time for questions.
Oh, I want you to tell me, what happened when you first got together as a teacher and as a student.
Cece, would you like to tell the story?
Sure, I would. Actually, Brooke came to me when I started the school here in Coeur d'Alene, and she took her first class, and I saw her from the back, and I knew she had the full package. Full package means she has the criteria for the professional stage, the body, the limbs, and the well-arched feet. So I went up to her and I said, you know, you have a beautiful body and legs and exceptional feet. And she said to me, don't look to me to be a dancer, I'm going to be a doctor, which of course stabbed me in the heart. But she kept on taking classes, not on a regular basis, but she was there, and probably at the age of 15, going on 16, she finally decided she wanted to do this for a career. And I knew she was a little bit behind because the dancer has to take daily classes and several hours a day. Although she had the talent, she had the physical ability, the dancer has to have and reach a physical maturity in order to be, like, if she's 15, 16, she should be at a certain level. And because she was going to be a doctor, so she kind of lagged behind, but decided to go to college, and there she was able to join a performing arts school there with the University of Utah. And Jean-Philippe saw her exactly like I did now. There's a body to work with. So, to make a long story short, she was always, I would say, the dancer in the rough, and now she's a diamond.
Thank you.
Cece, we need to tell our audience that you have just won a wonderful award here in Coeur d'Alene, and that is the Mayor's Award for the Arts. And that's awarded only annually. But in your mind, what is the most important thing about being a teacher? I bet it's not the award. What is the best thing about being a teacher?
I think my reward as being a teacher is to see children that strive for this perfection, because ballet is very demanding. And if a child has that desire and works very hard, and for them to attain it is reward for me. And they share the love that I have for this art form, because I have a lot of respect for it. And there's so many people out there that really don't know what it takes to be a ballerina. It takes intelligence and hard work and perseverance, self-discipline. So for me, the reward to see someone like Brooke become the ballerina, I have incredible respect because of what she's gone through to get there. So my reward is to see a Brooke Klinger.
What a nice bridge that you've built for me. As I ask my questions, I want to honor you with telling our viewers about where some of your students have been and are in their performance with the New York City Ballet, the American Ballet Theater, the Boston Ballet, the Royal Ballet in London, the Amsterdam Ballet in Holland, the San Francisco Ballet Company, the Aspen Ballet Company, and the Colorado Ballet Company. Right. Congratulations. That is all the certification we need to know what a professional teacher you are. And one other thing before I ask you my question, I also note that as a faculty member before coming to our state, that you had been a faculty member of the Pasadena Civic Ballet Company and ballet mistress of the Regional Ballet Repertory Theater of Huntington Beach, and a faculty member of the Orange County Dance Center. So you know of what you speak. And so with that in mind, would you share with us not only recognizing the physical features necessary and the intelligence and the professionalism, but for our young members of the audience that might have the same fever that you had and that Brooke had, what should they expect in addition to their instruction in the professional ballet process, but how about physical conditioning? What all must they go through to be able to endure physically on stage? And some of these performances are very demanding.
Yes, are you talking about a child or a student that has the potential to be a professional?
What should they expect down the road, the kind of dedication, commitment, not only to come to their lessons, but it's like an opera star that we interviewed, that there's a lot of, it's like an athlete in other ways, that there's a great demand on being in good shape.
Right. Well, a child of 7 or 8 that shows a desire to become a dancer usually comes from viewing a ballet. And so they have all this wonderful expectations of wearing tutus and point shoes, but what it is just pure physical training.
Right.
And when I look at them and I see their proportions, which I don't make up the rules. The professional criteria is stringent. It has to have a small, compact body with long limbs that are very flexible and feet that arch well. And if I see this in a student, then I do push them in that direction. And of course, they have to have a lot of support at home, because if the parents do not understand what it takes to be a dancer, then the child's not going to have that discipline, because if I demand it and the parent does not, the child's confused in that area. So I would believe that they have to have understanding parents of what the future requires of that person, and that's physical work, daily classes and hours, to layer this technique so that a child attains not only the strength and flexibility, but also learns artistic quality, and then they have to be able to perform with strength and ease. If they can't make it look easy for an audience to view, that person really doesn't have a business in ballet.
Right. Brooke, let's, as one that's putting these things into practice, share with us, when you were a teenager, now that you're in your 20s, as you prepare for different performances and productions, has it changed over time? Does it even demand more time and physical exercise and conditioning than in the past?
Well, ballet is dancing, professional dancing. It's unique in that you are a lifelong student.
Right.
From the age of 16 to 10 years later, now I'm 26, I still take a classical ballet class every day. I still have a teacher who corrects me. I never stop learning. So now I go from the class during the day as a professional. I took it as a student, and then now as a professional I build on with 6 or 7 hours of rehearsal learning a ballet. So
per day?
Per day.
Is that
6 days a week.
6 days.
Yeah.
You do get one day to
One day.
relax.
One day to rest, right.
Yeah, it reminds
Right.
me of others in other fields such as tennis where they practice 6 or 7 hours a day. You can't get to where you are or where they are without that kind of commitment. Then in addition to the work that you do with your class and your teacher and all, on your own, do you do running or any other forms of exercise?
Yes, my company provides a gym membership, so
Okay.
I do that 2 or 3 days a week, mostly like walking and weightlifting, and I also take yoga classes. So,
Brooke, what I want to do, and
Cross-training.
I'm saying to our people in the control room, I want to show 4 photographs that your mother, who I haven't introduced, Mona Klinger as your mother, and who teaches at North Idaho College, she was very generous to provide us some photographs, and so we're going to show 4 of those from the time you were very, very young until your performance now, and if they would show those. Here's the first one. About what age were you there, Brooke?
probably 7 or 8 years old, and that was my first solo, and it's a dragonfly.
Yeah, what a nice one. Now we'll go to the second
Okay.
photograph. And here you are.
This is me starring with my younger sister in a production of The Nutcracker here at North Idaho College, actually.
And she went on to go into English and
Right,
get a master's
right.
degree in
She's
that
an
field.
academic.
She's academic. And then we'll show the third photograph.
This is a picture of me as the Snow Maiden, which is a starring role of the University of Utah Ballet's production of the Snow Maiden. And this one's quite special to me because it was a affirmation that I was going in the right direction, that as a freshman I was chosen for a leading role out of a class of 4 levels. So
Cece was correct.
yes.
She had picked you out. And then the last photograph for this program.
And this is also of the Snow Maiden at the University of Utah.
Thank you so very much, Janelle Burke.
I want to go back, Brooke, to what you were talking about when you were saying how much time you spend per day. I take it now, of course, you're dancing professionally and you're paid to do this thing that you love to do.
Yes.
And you spend time practicing alone. And then you must spend time practicing with your company. So how does that work out time-wise? What kind of a day do you spend? It's not an 8 to 5 day, I take it.
Well, yes, it depends. So let's say on non-performance days, we'll start with a class at 10 o'clock in the morning, so I get to sleep in a little bit. 10 o'clock, an hour and a half class. We'll rehearse until 5 or 6 in the evening
Meaning
with a
with
lunch
your
break.
company.
With a company.
So that you know your moves and so forth.
Right, right. If we're learning a new ballet, we'll be working with a choreographer, and he or she will create a work on us, and that's how the day is spent. If we're learning a ballet that has been performed by another company, we will have somebody, again, to teach us the steps. On a performance day, we'll probably start around noon with a class and rehearse the show on stage, work with lighting, music, and continue until the show ends at 10 p.m.
So you're very busy.
Yes.
And what about health? I'm sure it's just imperative that you remain healthy.
I try to, yeah. It can be very straining on the body. Sometimes I'm just exhausted, and on my days off I just spend it in bed rather than do any other activities. But eating right and getting enough sleep and keeps me healthy. So.
Now, my next question is for your mother, and that is, sometimes our children don't always do the kinds of things that we think they're going to do, and we don't have much experience in that area. What words of advice do you have for people who would say, when you were telling them how you were supportive of Brooke when she wanted to do something that was completely different, you didn't have much knowledge about it?
Well, I have to give credit to my husband, Chad. Also, he teaches here at North Idaho College, but we both recognized in both of our daughters that they really enjoyed ballet. And so that was just a commitment of ours that it was a little expensive to take classes at times, and we had to drive back and forth to get the girls to their lessons, but we knew it was well worth it. And I do have some advice for parents. Just watch your children when they're younger, and a lot of the things that they do when they're younger are the things that they ought to end up doing in real life. I know that was for me. I always wanted to be a teacher. I knew it from the time I was about 4 years old, and watching Brooke in particular, again, dancing around with the tiaras and the boas and the dresses and all that kind of thing. So that's the big advice I have to give to parents.
I think this is the first on the program where a panel member asks another panel member a question. And so with that, they will turn to Mona, the panelist, to ask questions.
Brooke, you belong to the Aspen Santa Fe Ballet, and it's not the typical ballet company. We see things like San Francisco Ballet or Pacific Northwest Ballet that are fairly large companies. Tell us a little bit about the Aspen Santa Fe Ballet and also some of the advantages that you feel by belonging to that particular company.
Okay. Well, it's a very small ballet company. Usually ballet companies run around 20 to 40 members, and we have 11. And that makes it unique in that each dancer is working all the time in every ballet. So it's a wonderful opportunity for dancers. Also, the company is unique in that it is a mostly contemporary company. I do a lot on point shoes with the classical ballet training and background, but they also incorporate jazz works, modern dance, just unusual crafting of dance steps, still based on classical ballet, but very interesting for the audience and challenging for the dancers as well. Every day is exciting, every performance is exciting.
Then I will ask another question on that line. You have had a lot of performances by this age. Tell us about some of the performances or some of the ballet productions, and probably an unfair question, but I don't hesitate to ask. Do you have a favorite? It's like asking someone what's their favorite child when they love them all. But share with us some of the things that you have done.
Let's see. Well, I average about 60 performances a year, and usually what we do is we do repertory shows, which means 3 or 4 different ballets rather than a full evening's ballet. With that exception, probably one of my favorites is actually a classic ballet reworked by my directors, which is Romeo and Juliet.
Which, if I can interrupt,
yes,
to get our viewers back next week, we're actually going to show a dance performance next week with you in that role. And I've viewed it, and you're remarkable. But anyway, continue on.
Thank you. That one was particularly thrilling for me in that my director chose it specifically for me and felt that I had the strengths that would be well showcased in that character. It also was honorable for me because I had read parts of Romeo and Juliet in speech contests and was very familiar with the character, and so enjoyed interpreting it in dance without Shakespeare's words. It was a great challenge.
Why don't you talk a little about the partner you had in that dance? And I believe this is a lifetime partner too?
Well, this gets capitalized on. My boyfriend of 7 years played my Romeo, so it was a little bit less of a challenge to really be in love. So.
Now, is he with the same ballet company?
He is, yes.
And he's from New York?
He's from New York City.
Can you tell us a little bit more about him?
Well, he's a wonderful dancer and just a wonderful person, and I really enjoy his company working and in the non-dance respect as well.
I think that is wonderful when a couple can be that integrated in their interest and their profession, and so it must create a real special relationship. And again, we'll see him next week in the ballet itself. With that, Cece, let me ask you another question. That has to do with, you've already said on the program that you recognize certain young people as with all those talents. This is rather sensitive, but how do you deal with those that, they're wonderful people, but they just don't have, they have the dream and desire, but they do not have what it may take to perform at that level? How do you address that?
Well, I have had that opportunity to work with wonderful girls, and two of them were sisters, and it's Brianne Duncan and Erin Duncan. And these were girls from the very beginning. They did not have the suitable physique for classical ballet. And I think they knew that right away, because the girls that were chosen for my school all have that kind of body, that go on to the professional stage. But you know what? I encouraged them to dance because they loved it. They never, ever missed a class. They were always there, and I can say that they could outdance some of my girls that had the body and the criteria. But they would never be looked at because they didn't have the physique. But they loved what they did, and what it taught them was endurance, discipline, and the ability to stick with something even though they were not going to have it in the future. But it also teaches them in real life how to endure and how to have self-discipline. So it's a carryover. It's wonderful. And so I encourage those students that don't have the body to dance to enjoy it. And while they're in school, they have something else to do than not be idle and sitting at home watching TV and eating potato chips.
Yes. And secondly, isn't there a great lesson there that one has options in life, and one can take and learn from that, direct themselves to other things that they wish to do, and that they will be very fulfilling for them in their life.
Absolutely.
Janelle Burke.
My first question is for you, Cece. When you start your students, I'm sure you have certain fundamentals that you want to teach them. How important is it for students to learn the fundamentals and learn them well?
Oh, that's such a great question, because it's just like a language. If you do not learn the language at home with your family, then you can't communicate. And ballet is a language. And so at 7 or 8, I take them because it's a good time for them to understand that they have to have training. And the basics are all from the hip. Everything has to be placed from the hip. And so at that age, they're malleable. They're able to assume that position without difficulty. When they're a little older, like say 12 and 13, it's almost too late to start layering them technically, because the body becomes a little bit more, I wouldn't say tough, but ligaments and tendons are more mature, and it's hard to rotate from the hip flexor at that age. But 7 or 8 is the age that I take them. Below that, they're not really mature. Like 3 and 4, it's too young. They don't have the ability to hold their abdominals, which holds the position that they have to train from.
So the fundamentals are extremely important, and to do them well is
I probably
extremely
got away
important.
from that question, but yes, they're very important, learning from the very beginning to do it right. Because if they don't learn to do it right, to stand in placement, to learn the terminology, they pick up bad habits. So it's very important to take that little body and teach them how to stand, how to hold, and what muscles to use. Because then if you don't exercise correctly, then you're picking up bad habits.
Now, Brooke, you mentioned earlier that you continue to study forever.
Yes.
And so do you have some hopes in the future as to what's going to happen? Because you can dance a long time, but you may also want to do some other things. Have you ever thought of teaching as well?
I have thought of it, and actually I have had the opportunity to do some teaching at the school run by my company, and also for CC when I come back to Coeur d'Alene. I've enjoyed it, but I don't think it's something that I would like to continue on as a career. So far I'm thinking maybe a separation from dance, but who knows, sometimes people can never leave. So.
And you do show other people how to do it, I would take it. You probably if you go to the school here, you probably show them, demonstrate for them.
Yes.
Some of the things that you can do and some of the things that they might be aspiring to.
Yes.
Mona Klinger.
Cece is very modest. When you talk about all the students
Right.
that have gone on, that is extremely rare, and especially in a community like Coeur d'Alene where we have such a small population base. I thought I'd throw that in, which brings me to the question, Brooke, would you agree with this or not, that a ballet dancer is really only as good as his or her teacher? And would you agree with that, and why?
I would agree with that. I think that's absolutely truthful. It's like reading a book. If you don't have all the information in the book and you go to take a test on the information that's absent from the book, you're not going to pass the test. So the same with ballet, especially classical ballet. If you don't have all the information available from your source, there is no way for you to know it. So yes, absolutely. I still have had the opportunity to take from many people since Miss Cece Klein, and I still come back to her in my mind, a lot of the corrections and things that she has taught me.
Because it's like all little boys playing baseball, how many actually make it in the big leagues? And Cece has certainly proven that she sent many of her dancers to the big leagues. That's remarkable, it really is.
And Mona, you and I were talking, I think our viewers will be interested in this too, that there's another success story from North Idaho College. One of our other faculty members, she has a daughter that was also under Ms. Klein, and she is
Renee Cooper.
Yeah, and she is performing in the Seattle area.
She's with the professional division, and also Brandy Horn is there also. And they're studying for the year and understudying for Swan Lake at this moment. So they're quite ecstatic. What's going to happen in the future, it's up to them, but they're on their way.
Well, I just cannot overemphasize how much we want to commend you and congratulate you, not only as a performer and a teacher, but you must be so fulfilled with great enjoyment to see your students doing so well, and good luck in the future with your other students. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'll have to bring today's program to conclusion. It's been a great pleasure talking about this very exciting art and performance and a great part of our humanities. And I'd like to invite you to be with us again next week, and we will have Brooke returning again next week, and we are going to talk about some of her ballet performances, including showing some photographs and certainly some of her video, so that you can sit in your home and see some of her great performances. I hope you will be with us at that time when we bring you that program. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station. Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
I am most pleased to welcome you back to the second of our two-part series on dealing with ballet. And last week we had a ballerina with us, Brooke Klinger, and she's back this week. Her teacher was with her last time, or the first teacher she had in Idaho before she went on to her professional performance. And I welcome back Brooke, and
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. And I'd like to tell our audience that was not with us last week, you were with the Aspen Santa Fe Ballet Company, and not only performing in the West, but you've been in New York, and we're so delighted to have you back. And we also want to tell our audience that your mother, who is a remarkable faculty member at North Idaho College, is on the panel today to join us in celebrating your professional work, and we look forward to this interview.
Thank you.
And as always, I'm pleased to have regular panelist Janelle Burke, who's an attorney in the state of Idaho, and next to her is Mona Klinger, who is in the Department of Speech at North Idaho College, and in her own right has been a wonderful performer in our Chautauqua work at the Popcorn Forum over the years. And we're delighted that she's with us today. And with that, we shall ask Janelle to commence today's questioning.
Brooke, it's very nice to have you back. Last week was
Thank you.
so much fun talking about ballet, and I know that a lot of people would be interested in knowing what kinds of music you perform. What kind of dance do you perform? What are some of your interests as far as the music is concerned, and what kinds of music have you performed to?
Well, as a performer, usually my interests are not an issue. I
So
do
you
what
do
I'm
what
told
you're
to
told.
do. Right. My company is primarily a contemporary-based ballet company, and so the music can range from anything from percussion scores to new age to beautiful pieces of music by Philip Glass, and we even have sometimes Tchaikovsky and Pachelbel.
So you do all kinds of music.
Yes.
And what are some of the different kinds of dance that you would do then?
Again, we do contemporary, which is based on classical ballet technique, but twisted a little bit, make it look a little bit more current and a little more jazzy sometimes as well. And I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question you just asked me? Okay.
That's
Thank
sufficient because that's what I wanted to get at. And then who picks the music? Who decides what the choreography is going to be?
That is the work of the choreographer, either a gentleman or a woman who has been commissioned to do a piece, and they pick the music according to the style they want to do and the mood they want to create.
And would that be the first time that has been performed, or do you sometimes take the moves that have been choreographed by another company and then you would learn those moves?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but you can tell me.
Just about. About 2 or 3 times a year, my company will commission an original work from a choreographer, which means that no one else has performed it, and we'll usually have the rights to perform it exclusively for a year or two. And so that is something that is created for each specific dancer in the company, capitalizing on our strengths. We also do works that have been done before, commissioned by other companies, and we will buy the rights to that piece from the choreographer who created it, and he or she will come or send a representative to teach us with the aid of a videotape.
Mona Klinger.
Brooke, a lot of people are watching you, little girls perhaps who want to be dancers, or performers perhaps, a dancer or an actress perhaps, and they're all interested in stories about how one is discovered to be a performer. Can you share how you were discovered to go on with the Aspen Santa Fe Ballet?
I think it's not luck, it's hard work, it's a combination of both. I went to the University of Utah Ballet Department, which is well known for its program, and while working in their summer program as a resident assistant for their ballet summer camp, a director starting up a new company, Jean-Philippe Malati, saw me work and invited me to join his brand new company.
And how did he choose you out of the other people that were there, perhaps?
I think, again, I'm fortunate to have the right physical facility for dancing, and I think he also enjoyed my personality as it came across when I danced.
With that, I would inform our staff in the control room that we're going to show 5 photographs on this program of you and at other times another dancer. And I think that by showing those visuals, it helps our viewers see how remarkable your performances are. And at this time, I would ask them to put up the first photograph, and you can describe this for us, Brooke.
This is a photo shot by Lois Greenfield. She's a very famous dance photographer, and we were very fortunate to have her shoot our company. This is the program of our program cover this year.
And would you, in addition to yourself, identify the other dancer?
The other dancer is my boyfriend, Seth Del Grasso.
Okay, and then here's the second photograph.
That is also by Lois Greenfield. It is me in the front, and another dancer in the company, Irene Joyce.
And your third one?
This is...
Oh, they went back in the wrong
That's okay.
direction, haven't they? So we'll get them to move forward to get to photograph number 3. Then the next one we'll have up in a moment. There we go.
This is a program cover featuring me in a solo entitled "The Man That Got Away," performed to a Judy Garland song of the same title.
Oh, wonderful. And then the fourth photograph. they're going back in the wrong direction again. We're having a little
Well, this one's
technical
worth it,
problem,
yeah.
but you enjoy that one, right?
This is also me and Seth Del Grasso, photographed by Lois Greenfield in the work Ave Maria, which has become kind of a signature piece for the both of us.
Oh, it's such a wonderful one. And then the last photograph we will show.
And this was taken for paper a couple years ago. It's in my first teacher, C.C. Klein's studio.
Well, I'm so glad we had those, and we thank Mona Klinger for sharing those with us, because it really shows some of the moves and the performance. And a little later in the program, we'll deal with some videotape, which is even more amazing to watch you dance. With that, back to Janelle Burke.
Well, I want to ask some questions now about what your daily schedule is like and what your traveling schedule is like. You probably do a great deal of traveling, especially since your company is located in 2 locations.
Yes.
You're actually in Aspen, Colorado, and also in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So how does that work?
We are based permanently, but we all have residences in Aspen, Colorado, and we go down to Santa Fe 2 or 3 times a year. Each city has its own board of directors and fundraising for each production, so that's how we split those 2 cities. But also, probably about half the year I live out of a suitcase. This year alone we were in Hawaii, New York, Massachusetts, Santa Fe, Utah, and California. So
you do
we
lot
do
of
a
traveling.
lot of traveling.
Once you have your program set, then that's when you take it on the road.
Yes.
And
we tailor it to each city where we're going. The presenter usually has a choice. We have maybe 20 works in our repertory, and it is tailor-made for the city that we travel
So
to.
you switch around?
We do switch around somewhat.
And what happens in each city when the critics come to see you? How do you react to the critics? Do you read the newspapers?
I do.
And you read the critics?
Thus far, I have not had any complaints. Critics have really been very nice to me individually and to all the dancers in our company. They've been liking what they've been seeing. So.
And those are major newspaper critics. I think I read a New York Times article.
Yes.
And it's wonderful to be mentioned in those articles. So the critics don't, at this point, you still are enjoying reading the critics.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think even if it were to turn the other way, it'd still be enjoyable to read because it's a good indication of progress and maybe things to work on. So.
And while you're traveling, how many people are in your company?
We have 11 dancers, 2 directors, and then we have 2 technical directors that travel with us.
And by technical directors, what are their jobs?
They are in charge of the lighting, the sound, stage management, mopping the floors, making sure that we have heat and towels. So they do a lot of work for us.
Thank you.
Mona Klinger.
In this day and age, we find that there's a great loss of revenue for support of the arts in many, many cities. Many ballet companies are losing support. However, I have read that you have tremendous support in Aspen and also Santa Fe for your ballet company. You want to explain a little bit about that, how that's worked for you?
Yes. Again, as you said, government funding for the arts has really dropped in the last couple of years, and it's hard, as well as corporate funding. It's hard for a lot of companies to maintain the budgets they've had. My company's been fortunate, even though it's a very new company by the scale of things. We've operated without debt for the last 6 out of 7 years that we've operated, and it's very unusual. It's mostly due to our wonderful board of directors in both cities, Aspen and Santa Fe. They really have a commitment to the arts, and they happen to have the wealth as well to support such a thing, but they really believe in us, and wonderful that they're putting their money where their mouth is to keep us going.
And certainly they call on the ballet company to be part of that community. What are some of the things that you've done as a ballet dancer to engender that kind of interest? What have you done?
This is one of the most entertaining parts of my job. Our directors, Jean-Philippe Malati and Tom Mossbrecher, are very smart in marketing the dancers as the product. So we attend a lot of galas, a lot of fundraisers, we meet a lot of people, really know our supporters on a first-name basis, and just I live in Aspen, Colorado, so you can imagine some of the wild and crazy parties. Very entertaining, but also it's very beneficial to raising funds for our company.
I was just going to say that as in relation to Mona's question, that being in either Aspen or Vail, or even to some extent Santa Fe, you certainly have met a lot of famous people, and so that I would suppose in many ways that's one of the side benefits of your work, because a lot of the people who are very famous or quite wealthy do appreciate the arts and humanities, and so gives you an opportunity to share thoughts with them. At this time, I want to ask in the control room for them to run our videotape we have of you. I just want our viewers so much to see you in dance, and this is production. They'll start, and in a moment you and I will come in and talk about what it is, and it's a wonderful performance if they will do that at this time. At this point, the music is going down a little bit lower.
Okay.
Accompanies it, and you and I are going to talk about it. Tell us what this production is.
This, I believe, is from 2001, and it is Aspen Santa Fe Ballet's original production of Romeo and Juliet. It is this production is I say original. It's the oldest story in the book, but my directors recreated it to give it a little bit of their own personality, and then as well as utilize my strengths.
Well, you certainly can see that both of you have not only the great style and the great artistic work, but one again can see how much physical demand there would be on such a performance. And this is Romeo and Juliet, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
And share a little bit with us who the other dancer is.
This is my boyfriend of 7 years, Seth Del Grasso. And it was a pleasure to have him be my Romeo. Get past the kissing a little bit easier. It was a little bit difficult too. I like to tell people, kind of a challenge actually to be in love with somebody all day long in a working atmosphere. Sometimes at the end of the day, I'll see you later. I've been in love with you all day. I don't need to be in love with you anymore. So
a little break in the,
yes.
in the evening and all.
Yes.
But now, where did you say this was being performed at?
This is being performed in Aspen, Colorado.
Yes. And have you performed this particular production anywhere else?
Just in Santa Fe and Aspen, Colorado. It's kind of an involved production. Again, my company only has 11 full-time dancers for this. They hired probably about 20 more dancers to really fill in the ranks, and it's hard to travel with all those people and all the sets, so just limit it to Aspen and Santa Fe.
You know, again, as I say, I can admire so much the energy that you can put in this and the commitment. But since you're a small company, as you've indicated on the show last week, that means a lot more performing for you. And so you indicated that that's very good in relation to having a lot of experience, but also I would imagine that it's very exhausting, because with some of the other companies you're able to have more rest between.
Right, the workload is shared a little bit. But as exhausting as it can get, I think in the end, and my colleagues feel the same way, that dance is kind of a limited career, and I mean, in terms of how long you can do it, so might as well do as much as possible while you can.
Well, it was just a remarkable performance, and I know our viewers can admire how professional you are, and
thank you.
And what a wonderful evening for people to spend at Ballet and enjoy it. One final question before I go back to the panel, and that is, for the average ballerina, how long is a career? About what age do you have to start looking at the possibility of not dancing any longer, or at least professionally?
I've been told that usually women is in her prime in her 30s. Probably about past 40, most people don't want to continue dancing. It's just too hard on the body. It's been a lot of stress from a very young age. Again, since probably about the early teenage years, you've been dancing every day for 6 days a week. And about mid 40s.
Oh my goodness,
most
you're
people
only
retire,
26, so we have a lot to look forward to in the future. And I hope, Brooke, that someday that one of the dreams would be that you could bring the company here, the full company performance. And we have some organizations here that are very supportive of the arts, or would be a great way to have a fundraiser. So maybe the people of the whole Inland Northwest will get to see you perform here.
Well, we'll be in Pullman, Washington on November 2nd, so if anyone wants to drive down,
Okay.
We'll be performing there.
Yeah, we're taping this program in October, so even if they miss that,
Okay.
maybe we'll have another one in the future, and we'll certainly inform people if that happens. Janelle Burke.
What advice would you have for people who go to view a ballet? What should they be looking for?
Whatever you enjoy as a person. I think there's been kind of a mystique put around ballet, which is really not helping it continue to grow without, again, funding that's so desperately needed. I know my company tries to really reach out to the audience and offer a broad range of things. And I think people need to not feel like they need to be educated in order to enjoy it. It's like watching any performance or seeing any painting in a museum. Whatever you feel is beautiful to you, then it is beautiful.
But watching the movements of the bodies, I take it, would be very important. Watching the staging, where people are on the stage, and how the colors and so forth, would that all be part of it as well?
It could be, yes. I think a lot of people enjoy how emotions come across without using a verbal message. Again, like performing Romeo and Juliet without Shakespeare's words, and yet trying to get across the same theme. And I think people enjoy that. There's so much emotion that can be portrayed just through physical movement.
And if you had some suggestions about ballets to see for the novice, what would you recommend?
Anything you can get your hands on. It doesn't matter anywhere you are located. If there's dance being offered, it's just best to see what you can see. And that way you have a wonderful base to decide what you like and what you do not like.
Well, I've asked you some questions about what people should be looking for, but now I want to ask your mother about when she goes to see Brooke. How do you feel? Are you very, very nervous?
Yes, very nervous. But it's probably one of the most thrilling activities or experiences a parent could have. I know that we've been watching both of our daughters dance, and of course Brooke for the longest, since they were really little. And there's nothing more thrilling than sitting in the auditorium with the anticipation, and the curtain goes up. My husband and I, we grab each other's hands and we gasp at the beauty that is our daughter on stage. And then we know that eventually there's going to be something difficult going on stage, that we know that's been a very demanding move or something like that. I don't know the names of the moves and this kind of thing, but something that would be like, oh my goodness, is she going to make it? And we sit there, hands clutched, and then a great sigh of relief, and then like, oh my God, wasn't that beautiful? So, I mean, it's a wonderful experience. And I love saying this in front of all your people watching, Tony.
Well, thank you.
Because it is a thrill, total thrill.
And I'm sure there are some times when you do very dangerous moves. For example, I noticed in the clip that we had, when you are going to be caught by someone, it must take a little while to learn to have that complete trust that you have to have in your partner.
Well, I've been told that I have no fear. And actually, it's thrilling. But yeah, there is a certain element of risk in partnering. But also in stagecraft and production itself, there are always traps in the wings, there are wires to trip over, there are slick spots on stage. So every night, it's a little bit of careful treading during a performance, but that just makes it all the more exciting to be a live performer.
Living on the edge.
Yes.
Lana Klinger.
It seems to be the pinnacle of success when an actress or a performer or a dancer goes to New York. And you had the opportunity to perform in New York this year, and also at something called Jacob's Pillow. Can you tell us about your pinnacle experience?
Yes. Again, Aspen Santa Fe Ballet Company is rather new in the scale of things, and to dance in New York is really an honor. we performed at the Joyce Theater, which is a theater that opens its doors to, again, smaller companies, maybe less well known, but it's something that you have to apply for. And first you apply with a videotape, and if they like what they see, they send representatives to see the company perform live. And we were chosen, and we did very well. We sold out every night of our 6 nights there, and are invited to come back again. And also we were invited to perform at Jacob's Pillow, which is the oldest dance festival in the United States, summer dance festival. And again,
And where is that?
that is in Lee, Massachusetts, and it is a great honor to be invited to perform there as well. So yeah, two exciting things to happen this summer, very big venues, and really kind of push you on the map type venues.
Was it more nerve-wracking to perform in such places, or just different, or what?
I would say more exciting. Definitely, definitely more exciting.
Mona, it's very obvious your daughter loves challenges, and so rather than you having the concern and fear, she is looking forward to it with great anticipation. I, too, read the New York Times review, and the New York Times magazine, and Ma, you've arrived when you're there, and they spoke very highly of your performance. And I have 2 parts to my question. The first part is, and it builds on what Mona was asking, and that is, and I don't mean this in a negative sense anywhere else, but some audiences like New York, very sophisticated, and it's like Broadway plays. They are so used to it, they get a very critical eye.
Yes.
I've always contended that at North Idaho College, in the Popcorn Forum, the audience is very sophisticated about speakers because I've been seeing them for 34 years. So do you find some of those audiences with a more critical eye, and you're aware of that as you're preparing for it?
Certainly more aware of it. In fact, before the review came out, I was a little nervous about it. Could they eat us alive in New York City? Here we are from the mid-mountains of Colorado, and what do we know about dance in the city that knows everything about art? But I tell you, when we opened up the New York Times and had a big color picture on the front of the arts section, and I can wonderful words underneath it.
Raving review.
Yeah, it was just a thrill unlike any other.
The other question I have, and back to the panel, and that is that you have such support in Aspen, and I believe in when your opening performance in New York that a lot of people flew in, and there was a description in the article about they were all dressed a certain way and that they filled the audience. And isn't that unusual for a group to be so supportive that they will follow that great distance?
It is really unusual. Most companies, the dancers never have contact with their board of directors. And again, not only do ours contribute monetarily, but they don't just write a check and done with it. They really have a hands-on involvement, and very supportive to come and cheer us on at our debut in New York City.
I was really taken with that. I was really impressed.
And have my parents there as well.
Yes.
So,
and that adds to your energy and assurance through that process. Janelle Burke.
You had a beautiful costume in the Romeo and Juliet. So how does the costuming work? Do you get a say in the color? Do you get a say in what it's going to look like? Or is that pretty much done for you?
Usually done, again, the choreographer usually designs his or her costumes or has someone design according to their specifications. And again, it's the choreographer's choice to complete the whole work of art that he or she has created.
So then someone makes those costumes. They're all custom-made costumes,
Yes,
I would take it. And do you have some favorite things to share with us about just high points that have happened to you? Maybe something funny that's happened in one of your performances, or maybe a time when there was just something special that happened. You found out someone was there that you were didn't know would be there.
I think my greatest memory, and it still makes me chuckle, we do a children's ballet called Rainforest, and it's got these wonderful costumes that beautiful, it's like the Lion King on Broadway or something. We have frogs and bugs and birds, and I remember standing in the wings in a bird costume, and my colleague Patrick was waiting in front of me in line. We're waiting to go on stage, and he turned to me, kind of looked at what we were wearing and said, "We have weird jobs." So that's one thing that I will probably always remember. Yes, it is a weird job.
But lots of fun.
Lots of fun, yes.
Keeps reality there.
Yes.
Mona.
Well, you had a wonderful year, Hawaii, New York City. What's the future for the Aspen Santa Fe Ballet?
We have signed with an agency, Columbia Artists, and that's unusual for a ballet company. We are small enough that we can have an agent to help us with bookings. And what we see in the future now is going internationally, touring, and that'd be just exciting beyond compare to travel the world and do what I love to do.
I will build on that too. Do you have any bookings internationally yet, or is that just in the near
It's
future?
in the works, yes.
Right.
Not yet, but
Probably to Europe.
hopefully, yeah, Europe.
Yeah. Again, when you go somewhere like that, you'll get a different kind of audience, and
Yes.
and you will obviously be, I'm sure, briefed on some of the things that that they like and so forth. And so your agent would work with them and get a certain amount of information that would be helpful.
Yes, yes.
So, well, we want to wish you good luck on this program. The clock always wins. We have to stop at a certain point. And Brooke, we want to thank you for last week and again this week, and we want to congratulate you on this incredible professional, artistic endeavor that you are undertaking. And I can join your parents in saying how, and Janelle will join us in saying how proud we are of you. I've known you for a long time, and when you were small, dancing around, it's so great to see you at this level now. And,
Thank you.
And we wish you well in all your future endeavors, and we know that good things lie ahead for you. And we congratulate Mona also and Chad for raising such a wonderful, wonderful daughter, and well, two of them. And so with that, we bring today's program to conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, and I would invite you to be with us next week, and we'll turn to another subject. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station.